What's happening? My name is Blake Harris, and this is the Music City Mindset. The Music City Mindset can be found on all platforms everywhere underneath the Nashville Fit Magazine network, and we are very grateful for that because we are grateful for opportunities like this because we have a show lined up for you today that's going to be a struggle for you not to go back and watch over and over and over again. But part of the reason why it's going to be so good is that I'm not here alone. The owner of Spontaneous Beauty, he has art pieces that have been shown all around the world. And if you have ever been out at a club with a fresh pair of shoes and someone walks by and scuffs them, it is probably this dude, my best friend for 3 decades, Evan Butler.
Yeah.
What's up, Evan?
What's up, man?
My question for you is, what's something that's happened to you recently where when given the choice, the right thing to do is the harder answer to go about?
Every day with the kids, because there's a lot of times that you're tired, you've been working all day, and like he might do something out of hand and he needs a whooping, but I don't want to do it. And it's easy just to let things go on, but I know if I don't do it and he continues this, then it's going to get out of hand later on. So the hard decision and the right decision is the hard decision in that, you know.
And that's to teach him that now. Yeah. Because that could end up having, like, these small decisions that we go through every day. They seem like small decisions here and there, but that could have generational impact. I mean, because that is ultimately, we're talking about your legacy. And speaking of legacy, when I was getting AI to kind of help me with some prompts with our guest here, something happened with AI, the chat GPT that I never had. I said, what's one word to describe this guy? It said resilient. I said, I like that. Let's see what else it's got. Redo the answer. Resilient. It went 3 times in a row, and ChatGPT said the one word to describe this man right here is resilient. On our couch today, we have a true local legend, the grandson of the country music legend Waylon Jennings. This dude is the first dude that ever to truly blend country music, hip-hop music, rock music all together, continuing his family's outlaw legacy since 2002 when I first met him selling mixtapes out of the trunk of his car. Since then, he has gone certified gold not once, twice. Once with a collaboration single with Jelly Roll, Fall in the Fall, and again with God We Need You Now, featuring Caitlin Curtis. He's the founder of Angels and Outlaws music label, the troubadour of troubled souls, Tony Strugolano. Welcome to the show, Struggle Jennings.
Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate you.
Welcome, dude. I appreciate this. And just to start it off, man, like, been following you around for over 20 years. Kind of been in some similar circles and watch your career.
For sure.
I think the first time we were around each other that didn't involve anything music related, we were at Monster Mountain at the same time. The haunted house.
Yeah.
You and Jelly had the braids that came down. And to see, like, you then and everything you've gone through and then everything you're doing now, man, like, I just feel like it's an honor to even be in the same room or all still alive and still able to do this.
It's crazy that night that I saw you at Monster Mountain. That was a long time ago.
That was like 05.
We left there, me and Jelly and the 30 people we were with, and got into a huge brawl in Waffle House. Oh my God. And the police showed up, and like literally probably 5 minutes after I saw you. Yeah.
I didn't know that. It was, y'all had so many people with you. It was like, man, I'm not even fucking with this. We're going to go on, you know. All right, but let's talk about, you know, the upbringing a little bit. Let's go back in time. The neighborhood you grew up in.
Yep.
Now, I know you spent some time in Franklin.
Oh, yeah.
When you were real young.
Yeah, so my grandfather just lived a couple miles from here, that house on Old Hickory Boulevard on the corner. And so naturally we lived close. So when I was young, 1 through 10, me and my mom lived in Franklin. And my mom had me when she was 16, so she was a single mom. Her and my dad split up when I was like 4. And she got into a couple other relationships and stuff. But yeah, we lived in Franklin in a little neighborhood called Maplewood at the time. And
not East Nashville.
No. But my dad and my dad's side of the family was all from the west side, from the Nations.
Yeah.
And so that's where I would go summers on the weekend and stuff. And then my dad was murdered when I was 10. And my mom kind of had a point where she wanted to do things on her own. She didn't want to be living under a roof that, Waylon bought, and she just kind of wanted to get out and do her own thing. And so we bounced around a lot. We lived in Hermitage for a while, which was like a total culture shock, going from Franklin, I moved back to Franklin in 14, but I lived in the different parts of Franklin that you don't really know about or hear about.
Yeah.
And because my mom was, she was young, she was trying to make it on her own, raising a son, single mom. So she struggled a lot. We lived in lower income housing, based on your income housing and stuff. So, but then by the time I was 15, I was taken out of my mom's custody for being unruly, and caught a bunch of charges and stuff, and moved back out to West Nashville with my Uncle Tadpole, and that's where I finished out pretty much most of my adult life.
How weird is it to drive through the Nations now, knowing what it was when you grew up?
Dude, I'm there every day, right? Because I go to the gym out there.
Yeah.
And if I don't make it to the gym out there and I go somewhere else, I still ride through there a few times a week. And, it's amazing because I love the growth that's happened there. But I always say it's kind of funny. I spent my whole life trying to make enough money to move out of the Nations. Now I can't afford to move back. Which I can, but not really, depends on the month. But it's crazy, man. And there's a lot of, they've done good at preserving some things, like Wendell Smith's, the restaurant, that my grandma worked there. My aunt, waited tables there. My dad bussed tables there when he was a kid. So I've got a lot of family history at places like that. And some of them are still there, and that's cool seeing that. I see the growth, and, it kind of moved everybody out. So like a lot of my friends and family and stuff, they've kind of had to move outside. I know some people that didn't sell their house, and, when you see like all the big brand new builds and then there's that one little house in between them. Yeah, that's my people.
I love that though.
Where did the name Struggle really come from?
Man, it's kind of given to me when I came home from my first bid, early 2001, and I was deciding to really dive into music. I was like, man, what am I going to call myself? Because my street name wasn't good to be put on a CD cover, right? I was like, no mom is going to let their son buy a CD from this guy, right? And so, which now they would because of the way things are. But, and a friend of mine was like, man, you ought to call yourself Struggle. And I was like, Struggle? And he was like, dude, all the shit you go through, man, like just, daily life, like history and present day and, at the time and even now, you know what I mean? Like I've got some kind of what some people call a travesty or tragedy happen every day, right? Mm-hmm. And I felt like, and Jelly early on was like, bro, you're burning bread on your name, on yourself by calling yourself Struggle. You're just going to attract more struggles. And I was like, nah, man, I want to show people that everybody has one and that everybody can overcome one. And it just stuck, man. I've been carrying that name for about 25 years now.
Well, something that I've noticed, a common theme, when you talking about your mom not wanting to be under the house Waylon bought, trying to make sure people knew that she could do it. Mm-hmm. Even, before we started recording, talking about your daughter wanting to do it her way and stuff like that. Even you. Yeah. So there's something in y'all's bloodline. Like you didn't really take on to that, that Jennings name, that logo and stuff like that early on. So there's something about y'all that's really important to pave your own way.
Oh, for sure. Well, a lot of it comes from Waylon. If you really look at in hindsight, the thing that I can pin down to is Waylon said, don't stand in my shadow, find your own light. All right. That's a famous saying of his. And he bred that into us. Like, listen, you use my name, it's going to make it a lot harder on you. And which is true. Like I get people all the time. They're like, oh, man, you're Waylon's grandson. I bet that made it easy in the music business. Like, no, motherfucker, it made it twice as hard. Right? Because they're either expecting you to fill those boots, be like that person, do the same thing as that person. Or if you do the same thing, then you're copying. You know what I mean? Like, there's no win with that. I chose to use the last name Jennings in my professional name I didn't at first.
Yeah.
Right. Like the first 10 years of my career, it was young struggle, young struggle. And when I went to jail in 2011, right, on these big charges that I did the last 5 years on, it was the blog sites and the newspaper that called me Struggle Jennings.
We're talking Black Curtains.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. They're the first ones that called me Struggle Jennings, right? The newspaper and stuff. So, and I was like, oh man, they got to take that off, And my guy was like, man, if you Google, because Google wasn't as crazy as it is now, they're like, if you Google struggle, you're never going to pop up. Like, you need to add the Jennings to it. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. And then I talked to my Uncle Shooter. He was like, no, bro, your grandpa would love that. Like, he raised you, he loved you. Carry that torch. You know what I mean? And so it was kind of out of my hands at first because I was locked up and people were calling me that. And then I just embraced it and was like, you know what? I'm going to do this for you, Papa. Like, especially after he had passed and stuff, because he was more of a father to me than anything. So, but I didn't for a long time. Like, I was friends with Yellow Wolf for over a year before I even told him whether it was my grandfather. Because I didn't want people to judge me for that. I wanted to make my own way. Just like my mom wanted to make her own way. Yeah. Just like now my daughter is making her own way. Yep. Right? Like,
to come out honest.
Yeah. I get frustrated because I'm like, I want to be more involved with her career and her, creating music. And, we're doing a lot of stuff together, and I'm going to reel her in for another album with Daddy producing. But, she's just been doing it her own way and finding her own way. And shit, she's gotten so good. Y'all were there the other night. I mean, flawless performance. Like, I'm up there in front of all these people sitting on the stage next to her, holding back the tears because I'm just like, she is a icon, dude. Yeah. Like, that girl has the potential to just be immortal, to be remembered forever. Like, she's got that. She's got that star. She walks in a room and she owns it. And
what does it mean to you that she's actually gravitated towards using the harness name?
Oh, I love it. Yeah. She's funny with that. She's like, Dad, when I get married, they're gonna have to take my last name.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, she reps the family name so hard. She's beyond. We could sit here and do a whole podcast about her, man. She's beyond unbelievable. She's beyond. You talk about resilience. You talk about a girl who's dealt with more pain and heartbreak than most men could ever withstand, and to stand there as graciously as she does. I mean, you see, I'm tearing up just thinking.
I feel like she always believed in you, though.
Oh, she never did. There were times I didn't believe in myself, times where I didn't think I could change, times I didn't think that I'd ever get out of prison, times I didn't think that I could ever be any better than what I was in that moment. That girl always gave me that inspiration and believed in me more than any other human being on the face of the planet.
I've been to quite a few of your shows. One thing I noticed walking through the crowd is when you look over at your family, everybody's locked in, but Brianna and your wife.
Yeah.
They hang on every word. And I see a daddy's girl just like my daughter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and the reason I say that is, like, I can see it, her watching you with that, like, it's almost like she's like, I always knew we'd be here.
Yeah, for sure. And same way with my wife. Me and my wife, we were best friends for 15 years before we ever dated. And she knows more of my verses than I know. Like, she knows word for word every song I've ever put out since 2003, right? And and she's been such a strong support as well, coming home from prison. Me and her had been in different relationships, and we were all friends with each other's, the mother of my kids and the father of her kids were brother and sister, right? So we were like all a crew, but they both had ran astray and went out, broke bad. The mother of my kids had ran off with one of my best friends, and then my kids had ended up in foster care, and the father of her kids had ran off. He was in and out of jail and on drugs, and both of them have passed away now, both of them from fentanyl overdoses. But, and so when I came home, my kids were in foster care, and she was the one person that I knew that I could always rely and trust. And I'd always had a thing for her anyway, and loved her so much, beyond just a friend. So, when I called her from prison, was like, hey, when I come home, I'm coming after you. And she was like, no, you're not. She's like, I know you're crazy ass. She's like, you stay away from me. And, it took me a little while, but.
She answered them collect calls, though, didn't she?
Yeah, she did. Yeah. And as soon as I got out and got to the halfway house, she was one of the first ones to show up and, pick me up, took me to like my hygiene visits and stuff so I could go grab what I needed from stores because I was in a federal halfway house for the first 6 months.
From the Halfway House album to the federal halfway house.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a long journey, man.
When I first
I actually just bought the rights back to the old Halfway House album. I don't know what the stipulations will be about putting it out online because of Jelly's brand and his team and stuff.
Yeah.
He's in a different place now, so I don't want to disrespect what he's got going on, but I'm gonna put it on cassette tape, CD, vinyl, and sell it that way, just so the fans can have that to hold on to.
There's some bangers on there, man. Hate Goes On.
Yeah.
When I first met you, you were I was sitting on the steps of Rivergate Mall where the old Ruby Tuesdays used to be.
Yep.
And you come up, and I had heard through the grapevine about you, about Struggle, this and that, but I'd never linked up with you or met you in person. And you come up and were like, hey, man, you like rap?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I actually rap too. And you were like, but you were the nicest guy.
Yeah, man.
You weren't as swole back then.
Yeah, no, I was a fat boy, man. I've been working hard, and I still got some ways to go. But
I mean, you said we could have a whole podcast just talking about Brianna's career and everything going there. Your connection with Jelly Roll. I'm trying to make this one about you, but you brought him up.
Yeah.
When and how did you first meet Jelly?
So we met, I believe it was 2003. He had just got out from doing a year in CCA on an armed robbery, and he had just turned 18 because they had tried him as an adult, I think at 17, and he did a year. So he was just like 18, 19. He had just got out. I had just got out from doing 15 months on a weed case, and I was a single dad with 2 kids, had a little studio in my bedroom, and was putting out songs, recording them in the closet, putting them on CD, out selling them with me and a bunch of guys from the West Side, and White Boy and BK and some other guys. And so I was down there. I had a show at a club called Crush that was on 2nd Avenue at the time, and I was promoting with a flyer that show and also selling my CD. And as I was passing BB King's, Alex King was there, and me and him had been in jail together. So me and him start talking, and Jelly Roll walks out, and he's like, oh, I want to introduce you to Jelly. I think Jelly was selling his CD too, but I think he was hosting a rap battle that night because he had already won all the rap battles. So like they had him hosting it because they wouldn't let him compete anymore in Nashville. And so then he linked us, and me and Jelly talked, and he was like, oh, yeah, I'm recording at Cross Track Studios in Joe Johnson Projects, pull up. So I was like, cool. So I pulled up like 11, almost midnight, 11:30, almost midnight, pulled up in the alley in the projects. He's like, I ain't think you was going to show. I was like, well, he must not know me. And so we sat out there, and I played him a bunch of songs, and I had a song called I Ain't Biting. And he was like, man, I love that song, dude. Let me put a verse on it. I was like, cool. So he came over to the house like the next day, put a verse on it, printed it up, put it on a CD, and it went crazy. It went crazy. And so all the clubs were like booking me and Jelly together for this I Ain't Biting. And I was promoting shows and doing shows, and he was doing shows. He was signed to Cross Tracks under Jazz, the coach, and a Nashville OG legend. And
jeez.
Yeah. And so we just linked, we just connected immediately there, and didn't stop, we'd been A1 since, and been through a lot of shit together, carried a lot of caskets together, buried a lot of friends, both did time. He did another year after that for a possession charge in 2008. And then I went away and did 5 years on some conspiracy charges. And, just stuck by each other's side. He was really one of the only ones, him and Yellow Wolf and, of course, Rel and Jerry G and, the inner crew that were really there while I was in prison, had a handful of homies from the hood and stuff that wrote letters and sent pictures and stuff, but it was a very small, I actually built more relationships with fans and outsiders that were writing me constantly, but Jelly, him and Rel and Yellow Wolf, they would go through and make sure that when they could help out baby mama and the kids, but she just went on such a crazy path that, nobody could really stop them from what happened, At one point, Jelly had custody of my kids while I was in jail, while I was in prison. And then, but then they ended up in foster care. And when I got out, I fought like hell to get them back.
Oh, yeah.
Man, it's amazing. There's an era there that I think about that, like, we're a little bit younger than y'all, but just between you, Jelly, Worm, Bravo, Lex, that whole era. Yeah. There's just amazing music that came out of that.
Oh, yeah. So I haven't told anybody this yet, so y'all will be the first ones that know, but I'm actually finishing up right now. I did a EP that is called Young Strug. It's releasing hopefully this year. If not, it'll be first of the next year. But I did it with Sonny Paradise from Street Flavor Records. And he's down in Florida now. Yeah. And I went down there and he had all the plaques on the wall and the big Street Flavor sign. And I was like, man, that was such an era from Pistol and Boogie to, Stack and then Jelly and, everything that Sonny did in that 90s hip hop, that 90s Nashville rap. And so it's all Sonny Paradise beats, 90s Nashville rap. And it's like 5-6 songs. I've got Pistol on the album. I've got Brianna, of course, Caitlin Curtis. Yeah, I remixed a Pistol, so I'm not going to give it away. Okay. But I'll play it for you before we leave. Right. But I remixed a old Pistol song from the early 90s. Oh, and then he's getting on the song, rapping a verse.
I just got a new copy of Bullet.
Yeah, Hitting Like a Bullet.
Hitting Like a Bullet. I just got it off. Sent in.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. I have to ask, though, what did Waylon think of the braids?
Well, Waylon, he loved it. I mean, let me tell you something. By the time I was 7, Waylon was calling me his only black grandson. You know what I mean?
He called it, yeah.
And he loved it. His best friend was Muhammad Ali, so that wasn't a diss. You know what I mean? Waylon wasn't. I got people to be like, oh, Waylon be rolling over in his grave if he knew you were rapping. It's like, bro, Waylon used to ask me to rap for him. He loved it. He loved all genres of music. He loved all people. He didn't have a racist bone in his body. Yeah. He was a tough motherfucker, and he was firm in his beliefs, but he didn't ever judge other people for their beliefs. He'd call you out if you were corny or fake, right? Like he did with Garth or, other artists. But Waylon was so objective and so open-minded about everything, and he loved it. I mean, Waylon had a thing at the Ryman. I was probably 12 years old, maybe 13. And they were giving him this big gold microphone and guitar and stuff. It was like a special thing that they had for Waylon. And if you look at the pictures from back then, I'm standing there with plaits.
Yeah.
My head shaved underneath it with plaits at 12, right? And I'm 2 people over from Waylon. You know what I mean? He never judged me for that. My grandma Jessie's the same way. I came home from prison this last time, and we went to a big thing with that they were holding for Chris Christopherson.
Yeah.
And it was the first time I had seen her since I came home from prison, or since I went to prison, because, she couldn't travel to come into prison. I wouldn't ask her to. But and she was like, yeah, this is my grandson. He just came back from college. I mean, no, that's one thing I can say, especially about, that side of the family is there was never no judging. There was never no, hey, we're all, Waylon came from nothing. Waylon had his own demons and his own battles that he fought, and all my family has. And, So there's no like, oh, you did this. I never dealt with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it didn't matter if my pants were hanging all the way down around my ass and I had a pistol hanging. I thought I was a gangbanger. Pulling up in a box Chevy. You know, they still love me the same. Man, and he saw awesome. He saw because you got to think, man, if Waylon would have been born in 1980, he'd have been a rapper, right? Because that's what was speaking to the poor, to the poverty people that were going through how we were raised and what we went through. You know, I was raised on Tupac and UGK and 8Ball and MJG and No Limit, and but then of course the backdrop, all my uncles were listening to, Waylon and Willie and George Strait and Leonard Skinner, so like I had that. And then my mom was 16 when she had me, so she's like banging whatever pop is out in the early 80s, Bonnie Raitt and so it was like I grew up with like a plethora of different genres and music being played all the time. I just gravitated towards rap, and the older I got, the more I started to fall in love with country music because of the storytelling, right? And that's why I got into rap in the beginning, was because it was the storytelling. It was telling the story of the common people and the people that were from where I was from and going through what I was going through. And so then, I started to really fall in love with, everywhere from 70s to 90s country the older I got,
Yeah.
One thing. Go ahead.
Was there, growing up, I mean, just in your everyday household with Waylon, Jesse, Shooter, all them around you and the people that are around them, was there a pressure on you to do music? And if you weren't going to do music, what would you be doing now instead?
Yeah, no, there was never any pressure at all. Waylon never... Like, he never pressured Shooter. He never pressured me. There was no pressure to be in music because of being in the house. Like, I grew up in a house with a mom with a piano in the house, and she would sing all day. She would wake me up in the morning and sing hymnals while I was getting ready for school. And, we dance in the living room and stuff, and she'd be playing. And so it was always such a love for music. And then at an early age, I realized that I loved expressing myself through writing. So then I started like writing poems, and then it turned into songs, and then it turned into me rapping. And, by the time I was 14, 15, I had a bunch of little cassette tapes of me rapping in my room, playing, an instrumental on one tape player and hitting record on the other and rapping in between them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So
there was always a love for music, no pressure at all. If anything, we were kind of pressured to not get into music. Waylon, he had a rough time in the music industry. Right. There was times in the 70s, late 70s, and even in the early 80s where he was number one on the radio and was running out of gas in between shows in the tour bus. They didn't play him on the radio. They didn't show him a lot of love. He was a real deal outlaw and told them how he was going to do it, where he was going to do it, when he was going to do it, and who he was going to do it with. And a lot of the labels didn't like that. So he of course, he made a lot of money, and especially in the later years, he made a lot of money, but he didn't die with none of us got trust funds. Shooter didn't get a trust fund. Shooters had to grind from the grit himself and, moved to LA at 18 to become a rock singer in a band, and then turned into a country music singer and got a record deal, realized he didn't want to be with a label, and became a producer. And now he's got, two handfuls of Grammys producing other artists, and he's doing good. He still lives project to project, and, he makes good money, but none of our family, it was kind of ingrained in us to not really chase the money, do it for the love and the passion, and the money will come, and family first over anything else. It's my motto, family over everything till everything is gone. So like, the money comes, the money goes. And one thing that I've learned in life over the course of 20 years, but even more in the last year, is like, what means more than money is relationships, and I wouldn't trade any of my relationships for more money.
I mean, that's very well said, and I think that's advice that more people especially people with money need to listen to.
Yeah.
Inspiring for the people that don't have money, and a word of wise for people that do.
Be smart and work hard,
Yeah.
grind, get what you need, get what you want, work towards goals, and by all means, make as much money as you can.
Yeah.
Just don't sacrifice peace and relationships and integrity for money.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, man, you never see an armored car behind a hearse. You don't take that shit with you, man.
Yeah.
That's of course I want to leave.
True.
So I want to leave something for my kids. I want them to be financially stable and not have to struggle as hard as I did.
Mm-hmm.
But before I do that, I want to make sure that I leave them with a guide and somebody to look up to, and some life lessons and some morals and values that'll get them farther than the money could.
You can make more money. You can't make more family, more memories.
No, for sure.
Well, that kind of puts a background to who Struggle Jennings really is. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to hear a word from our sponsors, and we will be right back. This is the Music City Mindset, and we are back here with Struggle Jennings. We kind of caught up, really learned a lot about kind of what makes you, man. Yeah. We can't really have a full in-depth interview with you like this and not talk about the prison time.
Yeah, for sure.
We all heard about it, so we don't really have to talk about that specific thing. But leading up to it, didn't have social media and stuff back then, obviously. What was going on leading up to that and to that event, as big as that was? Was this some sort of Boston George one last run kind of situation?
Man,
someone snitch on you? What happened?
I've had a few of those. One last run. My life has been a bunch of one last runs, right? Right now, even with my music, it's one last run, baby.
Yeah.
But I came out of jail from my first big case, marijuana case, right? A friend of mine had sold to an undercover, and they knew it was mine. It came back on me. And I did good for 6 years. I was a single dad. The mother of my kids had went to the feds. She got caught up in a case and went and did some time. I got with another girl. Started having kids, and so I did good for about 6 years, and working a regular job. Doing construction, waiting tables, maintenance work in an apartment complex for a while, whatever I could do. And my uncle had raised me to be able to work on cars, fix anything in the house. I did everything from framing to bricklaying to electrical to plumbing at some point in my life. Plus, I always had a love for cooking and being a chef. I actually apprenticed under a chef for a while at a country club, and waited tables a lot because I love the service industry. I love making people's day and night special. That was always something that meant a lot to me. So I bounced around from a lot of jobs, and then was just having a hard time, and was like, man, I let that comfort get to me of forgetting what jail was like. And, I was ingrained with a lot of irrational beliefs from a child, it by any means necessary, feed your family. It's okay to do wrong if you're doing it for the right reasons, good intentions and all that. Just kind of in the culture that we lived in, and the music that we listened to, and You know, on my dad's side of the family, they were all hustlers. So I always had that kind of in the back of my head. And it wasn't until I went to prison this last time that I was able to strip myself of all those and really recognize what those character flaws and traits were that kept leading me back in. But so, you know, it kind of started as, well, I just need to get enough money to, you know, pay this eviction off and, you know, get my car that's been repoed back and get my kids above water. And it never happens that way. You make enough money for that, and then you're like, well, I can't even really buy a car. I need to make enough money to buy a car. And then you buy a car, and you're like, well, I really need a house. You know what I mean? And it keeps going. It snowballs, man. And there's so much constant chaos and turmoil in that game that even if you get super ahead, you're still behind, or you owe the plug, or somebody got popped, you got to pay their bond and then their attorney, or, you know, it's always something that just kind of keeps you trapped and engulfed in that. And, you know, I kept moving, and I was trying to take care of a lot of people and, you know, wanted to feed everybody. And so I tried to get as big as I could. And finally it all came crashing down in a couple different cases, kind of simultaneously. A bunch of guys that I was dealing with got busted, and then one of the guys flipped and pointed me out on a voice note or on a recorded phone call. And so then they came pick me up for that. I was already fighting a Fed case where a good friend of mine had snitched on me. And, you know, because I've never actually been caught with drugs, you know, or the money for drugs or anything. You know, it was always like they missed things, but then somebody put the puzzle piece in to clear the picture. And so, you know, to be honest though, when that jail door shut, it was such a sigh of relief. You know, people ask me all the time, like, what did it feel like when you got locked up? I was like, shoo, whew. You know, because out on the streets, I'm, you know, between police or jack boys or, you know, beefing or, you know, whatever comes along with moving kilos of cocaine and pounds of weed and hundreds of pounds of weed and, you know, living that lifestyle, a lot comes with that. So getting locked up and being like, okay, they got me, I'm here, not knowing how much time I was going to do, that's the biggest stress. And then trying to control everything outside. Like the kids are going through this, kids are going through that. You need money at the house, you need this, you need that. And you're on that phone all day trying to figure it out. And it wasn't until till shit went really bad outside and I realized I can't control any of this. The only thing I can control is what I do with this situation and who I become. And then when you get to that point and you just say, hey, look, I'm not mad at the guy that snitched on me. It wasn't his fault. I shouldn't have been selling drugs. I'm not mad at the judge. I'm not mad at the DA. This is all me. So I got to figure me out. All right. Everything that has happened to me is a direct result of a decision that I made. Nobody else is to blame. Nobody else is at fault. Then you let go of the anger and resentment.
Was that probably the first time you really took self-accountability like that?
I had a couple times, but not to that extent. And I still have to check myself all the time. You know, there's plenty of times in the last couple of years where I've felt myself, I've slipped in that area, right? You start to be like, oh man, I had this bad manager. I had this, or this person got me in this bad situation. It's like, nah, man, you can't allow everybody else to control shit. You gotta check yourself daily, you know? And that's what I tell the guys now, because, you know, now I'm the director of Send Musicians to Prison. So I go back into prisons and take other artists and go in and talk to the guys, shed some light, some inspiration, minister to them, sing them some songs. And I tell them, you know, like accountability is probably one of the most important things for a man, right? It's like realizing that it's not everybody else's fault. There's nobody else you can blame but yourself. Even if you pull out of here and get T-boned, you could have stopped and said hi to somebody and started a conversation and that car would have been long down the street. Or you could have took a right instead of a left or, you know, whatever. Yeah. Like just really, and when you do that, you have control as well, because now you can control your feelings, your emotions. You're not mad at everybody else. You're just like, okay, I realize this is up to me to do better.
Yeah. I feel like sometimes God's saving a lesson for us till he knows we're going to learn from it.
Oh, for sure.
You know?
Yeah, a lot of bullets missed me before one hit me.
Yeah.
You know, and I dodged a lot of prison sentences before I actually got one. And the one that I got wasn't what it could have been. I should have been able to beat it way more than I could have beat others. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, man, I think everything's in God's timing. I think everything is for a reason and for a purpose. And there's a silver lining to everything, even if it seems like a tragedy to us. You know, some of the biggest, what could be heartbreaking moments or obstacles in my life, or, you know, things that seem like really painful struggles, or they ended up being my biggest blessings. You know?
Well, in that same prison bid, you also had people on the news, literally exact quote, saying they duped us.
Yeah, it's so funny. I just actually saw her
with the Black Curtains video.
Yeah.
Now, how did y'all dupe them? How'd y'all pull that off?
Well, so I was in county jail, and we knew we needed to shoot a video, but they were also doing a documentary about my life. Like, we've been filming my life since 2007.
I remember some of the shooting the sawed-off shotgun. And some of the old clips.
Yeah, so like we've been filming my life since 2007. The documentary we have, I mean, they dropped me off at prison, picked me back up at prison 5 years later. So like the documentary footage we have, we've got incredible interviews from a lot of people that aren't with us anymore, you know, that have passed away or been killed. Or so like we got a really, really strong, incredible documentation of 2007 to now. So they were shooting documentary footage. We wanted to shoot a music video. We didn't think there was any way that we could shoot a music video. And then this company was like, well, we can go in and do a documentary. It was like, cool. So we go in, they come in, they get all the right approval and everything. They come in and they do the interview, right? They're like doing the interview for the documentary. And then one of the guys is like, you think he could mouth some verses to a song and we could record it? And she was like, yeah, sure. So I do the whole performance for Black Curtains. They go out, shoot the video. And when it comes back, luckily I had already been moved from county jail to prison, because that county jail was pissed. Yeah. They were hot. And they tried to get us to take it down, and we didn't, because we had the forms, we had the clearance for it, you know. And it wasn't like we set out to dupe them. We didn't think they'd let us do it, so we were just getting what we could get. And then they were like, "Yeah, sure, go ahead and rap this verse."
You talk about exploding off the couch,
yeah,
sitting there with the parents watching the news, and it pops up, which is the first time I saw Struggle Jennings.
Yeah,
man. And then you went to Mountain City, right?
Yep. I just went back there. And sang 3 times in one day for the inmates.
What's that like?
That was insane.
That's
like
the same
prison. Same chaplain, a lot of the same guys that were in there. Yeah, my first week there, I saw a guy get hit in the halfway, you know, cut half his face off with a lawnmower blade, you know. And I was gang related, so as soon as I got there, they were like, "Oh, you're here. Cool, we need you." You know what I mean? But I was already so deep in my mission to change that I brought a lot of peace to that compound, and I mended a lot of relationships between other gangs and other crews and stuff, and I kept a level of peace because I've been dealing with shit my whole life. So conflict resolution is one of my strongholds, right? It's one thing that I'm really good at is like, hey man, I'm a man, you're a man. Let's figure out where the common ground is. You want what you want, I want what I want, but there's a way where we're both happy, right? And a lot of guys just shoot off of anger or greed or, fear of somebody getting over on them, and they take shit personal, and then that's what normally ends in things going south. So it was really about conflict resolution for me the whole time I was in there, and it was. But I got to go back in, and it was crazy.
That's amazing.
That's wild.
I actually signed my intake papers. The CERT team came over, the Ninja Turtles, the green team. they came over.
They bring the shields.
Yeah. When I was there this last time visiting and going in and talking to the guys and giving them inspiration, they actually brought me my intake papers from when I first came there and had me autograph them. It's pretty cool, man.
That's pretty cool. Now, when you got out, I know it wasn't because of me, so I'm not trying to be on taking credit, but I ended up being like the third person that you saw when you got out. Almost didn't recognize you. You and Wolf walked into the supplement store I was managing to get some protein.
Yeah.
So I've been waiting. I didn't know this was going to be happening, but I've been waiting to ask you, when you got in, how did you get into fitness? Because I mean, you always hear the stories about people going to jail working out, but you knew to come. You've been in for 5 years, and you knew to come in to ask for the brands that like normies don't really know to ask for. The First Form, the Axe and Sledge, which you have a great relationship with now.
Yeah, Seth is amazing, man. It's one of my favorite people in the world.
Somebody had to really sit there and educate you on that.
Yeah. So
who got you into fitness, and what does that mean for you?
So
now?
Me and Jelly were living together in Donaldson, right? I had my 5 kids living in the house, my wife at the time, and Jelly had a room there. And it was a house that Jelly's dad owned that we were renting from his dad. And that's actually where I was living when I went to prison. And Jelly came home one day and he was like, man, he was, tore up. He was 505 pounds. And he was like, man, the doctor told me I'm not going to live to see 30 if I don't lose weight. And I was like, well, shit, Bubba, let's do something about it. I was like, I'm about 250 right now. I need to lose some weight. And so I went to the doctor. I was 330. I thought I was 250. That's 10 years of having kids, man. You don't even realize how much you're putting weight on, right?
Yeah.
And so I was 335. And so for about 45 days before, I guess it was probably, probably about 45 days, maybe 2 months before I went to prison. Me and Jelly were going and working out every day together. And Zilla Ounce, Yellow Wolf's manager, that was my manager back then and one of my best friends, he was just yoked at the time. He was in great shape. And so he would pick me up and go to the gym if Jelly wasn't going, or me and Jelly would meet. I just fell in love with it. So as soon as I got to jail, I automatically fell in, just hit push-ups. As soon as I got to prison, I was lucky to go to Mountain City where they had a full weight pile. And first thing I did is got subscriptions to like Muscle Fitness, Men's Health, all the big bodybuilding, more than Men's Health. But I forget all the names of them now, but all the old school bodybuilding magazines.
Bodybuilding.com and stuff.
These were all just the magazines.
Oh, yeah.
So, and I like got the Arnold Encyclopedia, and I studied personal development the whole time I was in there. And when I was at Mountain City, my first cellie was this old guy named Gerald Laney, and he'd been on death row for like 25 years, and he was part of a motorcycle club, but he trained every day religiously, so he would drag me out there, and I was excited because I had been working out on the street. I had lost about 45, 50 pounds. I was feeling good, and I stayed at it constantly. I mean, I meal prepped in there. Like I didn't go to Chow Hall. I'd have people bring me like chicken and stuff from Chow Hall, but I was like tuna packs, just eating whatever lean, clean stuff I could. And then I went to the feds, and luckily I went to Terre Haute, which in Indiana, and they had a beautiful weight pile there. So I trained through there, and immediately as soon as I came in, I locked in with a bunch of guys that trained hard and heavy, and did some powerlifting, followed the West Side Barbell, but then kind of, was still losing weight at the same time. And then I got to Lexington, to the federal prison there.
Oh, they moved you all over.
Oh, yeah, they bounce you around. So then I went to Lexington because I was trying to get closer to home too, and they had the drug program there. So my points had dropped a little bit from staying out of trouble in prison. So then I went to Lexington, and they had a great weight pile there. And I met a guy named Michael Masters who had been down like 12 years and was just massive. I mean, he was just, and he was one of those guys that like trained by himself because he was a monster. And he automatically was like, man, come train with me. And he not only really taught me about like bodybuilding, but also he got a lot of those final things that I needed to get out of me and off to me. He talked to me, dude. He talked to me, fucking bitch, you know, on the weight pile. And I wanted to kill him. Like, you'd have said that on the street, I'd have shot you, right? But I had to learn. And he was teaching me that knowingly. He knew it. I didn't know. But he was teaching me, like, don't take shit personal, man. Like, because I call you something, that doesn't mean that's what you are. That's a reflection of who I am and what I think, right?
Yeah.
And a little book called The Four Agreements, really great. It's a great read for that same kind of self-reflection. But you know, and he'd be like, "Are you mad? You mad? What are you gonna do? You gonna punch me? You gonna get up under this weight and hit this rep?" You know. And so it was like that kind of drive that I came home 218, and of course then I fell in love with putting on muscle and bodybuilding, and worked my way back up to like 270, and then dropped down to 230, and then got back up to 260 and dropped back down to 240, you know, just putting on weight, losing it, putting it on, losing it. Really just like in bulking cycles, sometimes bulking the wrong way, all right, too much tequila on the road, or, you know, late night snacks. But I've stayed consistent. It's been life-changing as far as, you know, that's my sanctuary, man. That's my therapy. You know, doesn't matter what kind of day I'm having, what I've been through, I can go in there and I can beat the shit out of myself in the right way to where I'm growing from it. A lot of us have tough things go on in our life and we beat ourselves up internally or emotionally or spiritually even, right? And if you just take it out on yourself physically, you're only going to grow from it. You know, having that piece of saying, okay, I messed up emotionally, spiritually, mentally. I messed up. I can do better. And then just moving on, take it to the weight pile, take it to the gym, go in there and push yourself. You know, you'll learn not only how strong and resilient you are with healing and weight and lifting and getting stronger, and, you know, but it'll also help with your mental, because it all bleeds into each other, right?
And when you popped up in that train tracks video, it was like, oh shit, that means business.
Yeah, he's back.
Yeah, man. I wrote that verse in the bathroom of the Federal Halfway House downtown.
Damn.
Yep.
That was a banger. So one of the things, I struggled to figure out how to ask this, but I'm sure you and Jelly get a lot of comparisons.
Yeah, for sure.
Obviously, right? He went through his struggles, and he did a couple bids here and there. There's most juvie, some stuff like that.
Yeah.
As you've watched people just fall in love with his redemption story.
Yeah.
But, like, hearing your story, I mean, it's straight out of a movie. Like, it probably will be one day.
For sure.
Have you changed how you, like, talk about your story, and because you can see, like, what that redemption can go? Like,
no, you know, and I know exactly what you're saying. You're like, should I dumb it down some? Should I tone it down so it's more digestible?
Right. Yeah.
You know, should I? Man, I don't have it in me to say anything except for how I feel and what I've really been through, because what I've learned, you know, I've actually got a family member that's really mad at me right now because on the Sean Ryan podcast, I had just found out that my aunt had murdered my father. I found out on her deathbed, right? And my uncle was super pissed off about it. And I'm like, listen, man, this is my story. And regardless what I'm going through, I'm never going to sugarcoat shit, because somebody needs to hear that. And there's somebody else who went through some same family trauma that needs to know that it's okay. They're not alone, and that they can rise above that like I did, you know? And yeah, I'm super proud of what's happened with Jelly. I love that people have fell in love with his story of redemption. And the thing is we all have a story of redemption. We all have struggles. We all have our own. And I learned a long time ago, you can never compare this to, right? Because there might be a girl or a guy that in their senior year of high school, their parents went through a divorce and it threw their life in a tailspin. Well, that might seem a little different than my father being murdered or me being shot or me going to prison, right? But that's what that person had at that moment. That was the struggle that they had, that they overcame, or that they tailspin from and then pulled themselves back together. It's no different than mine. It's no, my struggle is no greater than anybody else's. Because even if it may seem crazier or whatever, it's what God put me through, what I could bear to get where I needed to be, right? And some people, you know, their story is they went to jail. They got drunk and made a mistake and went to jail one time overnight, and it changed their life. And then you got some people who got drunk, stabbed somebody, went to prison for 15 years, and it changed their life. Even though one may seem more extreme than the other, it had the same outcome and it had the same effect on that person. So nobody's struggle is greater than anybody else's. It's all how we deal with it.
It's a great answer, because you have been through a lot. I mean, and I know you were on a podcast not too long ago talking about, you know, the shooting over where the Charlotte Avenue.
Wendell
Smith. Wendell Smith.
The Wendell Smiths.
Yeah. And we don't have to dive into specifics of that. What I'm wanting to know is, like, from the struggles you've had, that life-changing moment, was there one, like, real, because you seem like a completely different person.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, I still feel like that dude's down in there.
Yeah.
He has to be.
For sure, he's in there. You know, it's that old Native American. There's two wolves. You know, which one's stronger is the one you feed.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
what was that one defining moment? Because you're saying some, like, great life advice here that I hope people take away from. But that one piece that really just shifted your mindset, when it almost seems like you realized that it was your own mindset holding you back. What was that like? Was there a one defining moment, or has this been just kind of a progressive growth?
Well, it was a progressive growth, and it's it's not easy. You're never going to change overnight. You know, what really struck it was when I was in the streets. I loved to be that guy that was like, oh, I'm doing this for the fam. I'm doing this so my kids got more than I had. I'm doing this because this is all I got. This is what I know. This is where I'm from, blah, blah, all this, right? But I always leaned on being a good father. But then when I went to prison, my kids became the biggest victims. I'm having to call from jail, and my daughter, my 5-year-old daughter at the time, is crying because her mom been passed out on drugs all day at 6 o'clock in the afternoon, and her siblings haven't ate yet. And I'm having to teach a 5-year-old how to make macaroni and cheese over a jail phone so she can feed my other kids. And I'm getting letters and hearing about my beautiful young daughters getting molested in trap houses, and then they go to foster care, and all this is happening, and the mother of my kids is, she's having this horrible battle and fighting these demons. And I'm like, man, this can't be the way the story is told. And this can't be the legacy. This can't be what I leave for these kids. Like, I can't, who knows where they're going to end up and what kind of life they're going to have if I don't get the fuck out and get it right. So it was that love for my children and love for my family and love for my friends and everybody else around me that made me have to learn to love myself and to let go of all that other stuff and say, you know what, I'm no good for anybody else. I'm no good for my kids. I have no business going home and trying to get custody of my kids if I'm still this way. I have no business going back and trying to be friends with Jelly or any of these other guys if I'm just going to keep doing the same thing and hurting everybody by hurting myself and causing havoc. Yeah. So, it was those kind of things that were happening, and that's why I say my biggest tragedies were my biggest blessings, because it was those things that pushed me to look, and then you get to a point where you just got to strip it all down and go and challenge yourself. Every time you're like, well, I did this because no, I didn't. Let me pull that out. Let me objectively look at this from another angle. Oh, no, I was fucked up. I made some really bad decisions. I did that out of anger. I did that out of hate. I did that out of resentment. And it wasn't even on that person. All the violent shit I did, it wasn't even on the person that I actually did it on. It was because some shit I was dealing with as a child where, they told me my dad's death was a suicide when I was a kid. And that day he had called me and said, my mom said, hey, baby, your dad's on the phone. I was like, well, tell him I'll call him back later. I'm playing football. And then I come in and find out he killed himself. So I lived with that regret of like, what if I would have answered the phone that day? Would he have killed himself? So those little things that happen to us as kids and stuff, if we don't deal with it, it sets up resentment and anger and hatred inside of yourself, and then you project that on other people.
So, like, in Like Father, Like Son, that kid in the back of the cop car with his head pressed against the glass, gritting his teeth, was that you?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And how, because I mean, just recently, and you're saying like you found out the truth about that situation. Are you finding peace in that now?
Oh, so much, man. Like, listen, when I found out, I had my arm around my aunt that killed my father. I just went over there to see her because they said, hey, you need to come say goodbye. She might not make it through the night. And I got there and I'm like, what are you doing, baby? She's like, hell, waiting on them to open this door so I can see what's on the other side. Her son's like, you're eating a lot, mama. And she's like, well, it's the Last Supper, motherfucker. She had that spirit about her. And I had my arm around her when I heard it. Another one of my uncles called and we were on speakerphone and he starts just trying to pour it all out to me. And I was like, hey, man, this ain't the time for that. I'll call you later. And I hung the phone up. And I had my arm around her, and I didn't feel any different about her. But it was a bit of closure because most of my teenage years, I thought it was suicide. So I was suicidal. I was angry. I was violent. I made a lot of bad decisions. I did drugs to cover up emotions. And then my uncle told me that it was murder when I was younger, when I was like 18. And I was like, well, why would you tell me? Why would you let me live with all that regret? And he was like, well, I'd rather you live with regret than revenge. And so that was a piece of closure right there, right? Because then I'm like, okay, he didn't kill himself. It wasn't my fault that he's not here anymore. Somebody else's fault.
You thought if I'd answered the phone,
he wouldn't have killed himself, right? I lived with that my whole life from 10 to 18. So then, but then it's like, oh, somebody else killed him. It's like, I wonder who killed him. How can I get revenge on that, right? And then finding out that it was my aunt, a woman that I loved that was amazing and took care of me and hid me out from the police and made my bond and, gave me money when my bills were short and sold me weed and bought weed from me. Like this woman that was like the best aunt she could possibly be to me and really was, helped me get through so many tough spots. It had been her. I would have liked to have found out why.
Yeah.
But she passed that night. So I never got to talk to her about it, which is probably best, right? Because right now I'm at complete peace with it. I don't feel anger to myself or pain for myself anymore. That like it was my fault. I don't have it. I don't have any. The revenge is gone, right? Because I know who it was and I love her and loved her and now she's gone. So there's no sense of revenge. So it did. It brought a lot of peace to that situation. And every trauma and tragedy that we have in our life has that. We just got to find it, right? There's always peace. There's always a resolution. And 9 out of 10 times, it's always internally or spiritually, right? It's coming to terms with things, accepting them, and dealing with it, not lashing out on somebody else. I don't know what she was going through that day. I don't know what he was going through that day. I don't know what they might have said to each other. I don't know what led to it, right? I know he had been drinking and gambling and won a bunch of money. She was drinking and probably on drugs at the time, and no telling what happened.
Yeah.
But a lot of times in life I would lash out because of those traumas that were really just something inside me that was making me push on other people. And I still got to catch myself. I get frustrated with my own self, and maybe I'm not where I want to be in my career, or maybe I don't, have the financial stability enough. And so I'll start like biting at other people, and it's like, nah, man, this is my issue and this is something I'm dealing with. Stop putting it off on other people. Stop projecting your own shit onto other people. And once you can it's a daily battle. I mean, I haven't done drugs in 16 years. I still think about them. You know what I mean? Yeah. I haven't sold drugs in 15, 16 years. There's not a day that goes by that I don't go, huh. if I called old Jorge
Yeah.
and made a
Talking about that.
made a little trip,
Yep.
if I just got away with one or two little loads, I could do this, or I could, pay the house off, or I could. But it's like you got to check yourself, man, because we know the consequences. We've been through them.
When we were younger, we talk about this a lot because we get to missing certain aspects, the moving, the shaking, the late nights. There's certain things. But we talk about, we grew up on Menace to Society.
Oh, yeah.
Scarface.
Yeah, Boys in the Hood, Blow.
We never thought about the ending.
Casino.
You know what I mean?
I know. Everybody fucking died, man. Nobody got away. Why did we think we were going to be any different?
Yeah.
There was always the one guy, but he was never the character we wanted to be.
Yeah,
Tuna.
Right.
Or you're like,
who wanted to be Tuna?
Nobody.
Scarface getting way too high on his own supply. I'm not going to do that. So, we never saw the full movie.
Yeah.
But obviously, you made that switch.
Yeah.
And now to completely switch from thinking about that like panic, that chaos that you're describing of not knowing if you're going to get out, not knowing if you're going to make it through the night, things like that. Now you're on a trajectory where you're getting to headline and go on stage in places like the Opry and the rhyming that we're talking about when you were a kid, and seeing that and kind of coming back around full circle. What does that feel like to actually like?
I mean, those are the moments, man. They make it worth all of it, right? It's like those are the moments and the minutes that make everything that I've been through not be in vain, right? Because if we can take all this tragedy, if we can take all this trauma, we can take all the bad shit that's happened to us or our friends, all the friends we've lost, all the mistakes we've made, and we can do something great with it. None of it was in vain. I don't have any regrets. There's some things that I wish I would have done differently, but I don't have any regrets because everything that I've done and everything that's happened to me led me up to this moment. And even though, there's things that I wish were better in my life, I'm so grateful for the way it is because it has been and could have been and could be a lot worse.
Just lucky to be here.
Yeah, man.
Same.
A lot of our friends didn't get second chances.
Right.
And we've had probably 30 second chances each, right?
I dealt with some imposter syndrome even doing this. And I mean, grand scheme of things, I'm not anybody, but like.
But you are. I mean, you got your own story. You got your own struggles. You got your own life. And the thing is like, that was one of the things that Waylon taught me too, is like, just tell your story. Don't try to be somebody else, because there's millions of other people going through the same thing you're going through. There's millions of people that didn't deal with the things that you dealt with as well that need to hear your story, And that's why, I'm cool with, I'm never comfortable or complacent, right? Because that's the killer. Like, comfort or, I just actually had this talk with my 17-year-old daughter because I got her a Lexus for her 16th birthday, straight A student, crushing it. She got a little Lexus SUV. She works hard. She goes to school. She goes to church. She goes to gym every day. Incredible, right? Straight A's. And it's been a year since she's had her car, over a year. And she just backed into Amazon truck yesterday. She was like, Dad, I don't know how it happened. I thought, I was like, listen, baby. She was like, the other day I was saying that I hadn't gotten a wreck or hadn't got a speeding ticket, and now I've got 2 speeding tickets and knocked off my mirror on a mailbox and just backed into like all this happened within a week, right? And she's like, I jinxed I said, it's not jinxing. You got comfortable. You thought, oh, I got this because I'm doing good. You got to stay uncomfortable. You got to remember and treat it as if anything could happen, right? Because she wasn't paying attention to her rear views. She's just backing out her driveway like she always does.
Yep.
Same way with me. If I get too comfortable, I'm either going to not work hard enough. I'm going to make a bad decision if I get too comfortable with my freedom. I'm going to make a bad decision that takes that freedom away from me. So comfort is a killer. And I know a lot of people preach balance, right? I'm fuck balance right now.
Okay.
Right? If I'm doing this and I'm just leveled out and balanced, I'm not going hard enough. Mm. It's like when it's time to go to the gym, I'm putting everything into the gym. When I get home, it's time to be a father, I'm putting everything into being a father. If I'm dealing with some mental shit, I need to go deal with that mental shit, right? Balancing is just kind of comfort. It's kind of complex. It's just, okay, I'm balanced. Fuck being balanced. I'm going hard in all aspects. If I'm not going hard enough in one and I'm out of balance, then I need to go harder. My balance needs to be up here, right? In all aspects. Otherwise, we slip, man. We fall short, and I do it all the time, man. Like I was having a really great conversation. It's been about 9 months ago with one of my best friends, and he was calling me out on all this shit, and there's a sense of me where I'm taking it in. Also realize he's not around me every day, so he really doesn't know. He's kind of projecting what he thinks or what he sees as from the outside looking in. But there was a lot of good points in there where I was like, I probably need to work on that, you know? And even if I don't feel like I need to work on it, I'm gonna work on it any fucking way.
Yeah.
Because if somebody else is seeing that trait in me, maybe I'm not seeing it in myself.
Well, before we let you get out of here, because I know you got places to go, busy man. Can't let you go out here without, in aspect of going hard.
Yeah.
You said the other night on the microphone you got something like 82 unreleased songs. I don't know if that's an exaggeration, but I don't think
it's actually by this week, it's probably about 86.
Brianna, on her IG story, someone was saying something like, "Is there a Sunny Days 2 coming out?" And in the response was like, "Well, I hope so, but my dad's working on like 8 albums right now." So before we go, we got to talk about what you're doing now. You got 1976 with Brian Martin coming out.
Yep. So 1976, we've dropped 2 singles. Don't Play Your Games, which was just a straight up stand up. We're not going to play your games. We're not going to, we're doing this our way. He had just got kicked off the Morgan Wallen tour and was being blacklisted by, the industry and stuff because he's a wild boy, probably one of the most talented singer-songwriters and probably going to be one of the biggest country icons of our generation. But he's exactly who he says he is. And, he deals with a lot and he's a strong motherfucker fighting a lot of demons. So when I found that out, he came over to write a song and he was telling me everything he was going through. And I was like, oh, let's do an album. They're blacklisting you. Somebody's trying to blacklist you. Somebody trying to cancel you. Let's do an album. They've been blacklisting me and trying to cancel me.
Outlaw shit.
You know what I mean? And so we named it 1976 about halfway through the project because we were like, this feels like the outlaw movement. Like we're cutting it all old school, all the players in the room. We got the mic set up. We're just singing, having a good time. And it drops September 26th next month. Just shot another video called Real Ones that'll drop with the album. I've got an album called Last Name that is it's releasing in March. We're going to start dropping the singles in October. So there'll be a new single every 4 weeks from October to March when that album drops. I've got the Street Flavor, Struggle Jennings, 90s rap, legacy project called Young Strug, 6-song rap EP coming out. I've got another surprise album I can't talk about. I've got an album that my uncle Shooter Jennings produced on me. Only reason that one's not done is because for the last, when I was singing, and I was reading all these comments, people saying, you should just keep rapping, you can't fucking sing, da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, well, I'm not claiming to be Teddy Swims or Chris Stapleton. You know what I mean? I wish I could.
Yeah.
I'm just me. But I was like, you know what, though? I need, if I want to do this, and because I want to sing honky tonks till I'm 90, dog. You know what I mean? If I owe it to the fans, and I owe it to everybody that's ever invested in me and loved me, and to be the best at what I do. So I got with a vocal coach just to learn, like, where do you sing from? Like, I've been a rapper. I've been ha, 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 ha. You can't sing like ha, ha, ha all the time, right? It sounds cool sometimes, but you got to be able to carry notes and breathe. And so I got with a vocal coach, and so then I went back and was like, Shooter, I got to come recut all those songs. And he was like, man, they sound so cool. I'm like, yeah, cool, yeah. But I want them to be good and cool. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's the one thing, like with the vocal coach, I've got an incredible vocal coach that is just teaching me, like, he's not trying to make me sing pretty. he's just showing me where the notes are, showing me how to stand, showing me how to breathe, showing me, how to save my voice so I don't throw it out. I already sound like I chew gravel, right? So he
what was it, honey water and a cigarette?
Yeah. So he's just like so now I've progressed so much, so I'm going back out to recut the vocals for the Shooter album. I got another project. Oh, Sunny Days 2. We've got about 3 or 4 songs finished off of it. It was originally a 5-song EP, the first Sunny Days. And we'll either match that or make it a full album. I feel like, and this whole week I've been in the studio 10 hours a day cutting an old school album. So I'd been doing a bunch of songwriting, writing with a bunch of different writers. And I called my guy and I was like, hey, man, no disrespect to all these kids that are writing all these #1 country records and pop country stuff. They're crushing it. They're doing great. I want to write with the old heads. I want to write with the Bob DePiros that wrote, for George Strait. I want to write with, Shane Minor and Lance Miller. And, I want to write with some of these older guys that Win Variable, these old writers that wrote the old classics that I love, And so I just started diving in, writing with a bunch of great songwriters, David Ray and a bunch of the old heads, and just got this whole other project. I've got, out of that, I've got 27 songs on the list that I got to only pick 12 so it'll fit on a vinyl. So
this is like Christmas.
Yeah, man. So it's it's a nonstop, plus working on Caitlin Curtis's albums.
Yeah.
She's got 2 albums in the pipeline, man.
God, she was phenomenal the other night.
They're probably the best female country records albums that have came out in decades. They're amazing. She nails every one of them. She just dropped a single today called Amen that just hit all platforms. Video comes out in 13 minutes from when we're here. Yeah. But working with her has been a blessing. She's probably one of the most talented female vocalists, definitely in country, and I'll say that with my chest, because not to diss any other female country artists. There's some amazing female country artists out there. She's just built different, and she's a workhorse, and she's super talented, and she works hard. Like, it's her whole life, and
watching her bring her son along and
I
stuff
was
like
gonna
that.
say
Yeah,
that.
man, it's just
it
just draws you in.
I was sold on her voice.
Yeah,
but seeing her with her son there, which I got redheads.
Yeah,
so I'm partial anyways. But it's like, now I'm sold on the person.
Yeah. He's a comedian himself. Like, he's gonna be an actor, or whatever he wants to be, because he's hilarious too. And that's the thing that all of us are doing. In my household, we're breeding and giving an environment for the kids to be whatever they want to be, and to know that it's fucking possible. She's doing the same thing in her household. Coming from a household where her parents worked a 9 to 5, did everything by the book, and may not have, they definitely supported her career, but they were probably really realistic in ways, like, it's tough, not many people make it. And then for her to be able to turn around and show her son, like, I was working in a car lot 5 years ago, and now I got gold, finna be platinum. God We Need You Now is platinum now, and so is Fall in the Fall. So I got 2 platinum records now.
Oh, so I had that wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I don't have the plaques yet, so I haven't posted it, but they're both officially platinum. Outlaw Shit's platinum too, but I've never received the plaque for it. So you gotta get it like audited, and then you gotta buy the plaque and shit. But
you gotta buy the plaque that they give you for that?
Yeah. It's like $600.
I'll throw it.
I thought you thought that was a gift.
No, and then you don't
I'll throw in on that.
Look, but then you don't want to just buy it for yourself. You want to buy it for the producer, anybody that might have wrote on it. You want to buy it, you want to buy it for different people that were, like, you end up spending $6,000 getting 10 people plaques, and
that's crazy. I didn't know that.
But it is it's an award, man, and not that, I still got my baseball trophy from elementary. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not that really means anything, but it does mean a lot, you know, because especially where we came from, man, it's completely independent to have platinum records hanging on the wall. Sitting in prison 9 years ago, not knowing what was going to happen when I got out. You know, my kids were in a foster home when I came home, and now they're in a 10,000 square foot home. You know, like, so, you know, even though monetary things and material shit doesn't dictate success, it's just man, this is where I came from and this is what's possible. That's why I don't ever brag or boast about what I got, but I love to show it off sometimes. Just say, hey, man, I'm riding this beautiful 67 drop top Impala, baby. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't think I'd ever be able to ride like this, you know? Or if I did, it would have been from the wrong reasons. But you can turn your life around and you can go do something successful regardless of what it is. Faith and hard work, you put everything into it, you're going to succeed.
I feel like it's important to take away from this that, like, never forget that no matter how big or small the victory is, the trophy, whatever we're talking about, that, like, in all chapters of your life, you can celebrate the wins. Yeah. That there's never a place you're going through where you can't win.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's only 3,000 people in the Grand Ole Opry when I did my debut. Not even a quarter of them knew who I was. But walking out on that stage,
you stole the show, by the way.
Dude, I didn't have any voice. My voice was completely gone, and I was backstage drinking hot tea with gummy bears in it, trying to fucking melted gummy bears in it, trying to coat my throat, and I just was like, you know what, fuck this. I took my shirt off, put the jacket back on, was like, I'm just going out here and doing me. And but you know, there were that room, however many people it holds, that meant more than doing 27,000 at some amphitheater, right? And doing the listening room, and you know, which is just a small writers round where I'm sitting up there acoustic just singing, or like Live Oak the other night. But going to places like the listening room or doing a little show at the Nashville Palace, those are like iconic things for me that mean more than a lot of the other shit. Like I'm not saying I wouldn't love to do Madison Square Garden, but fuck Madison Square Garden. Right. Like, dude, I played the Grand Ole Opry. Yeah. I played the listening room for 200 people that hung on to every word that I said. You know, and sometimes it's just how you dictate it, man. I mean, some people, you know, the more they got, the flashier it is. That's what makes them feel good. Yeah. I'm just not in that place in my life. What makes me feel good is the shit that really means something to me.
Quality over quantity at that point.
Yeah, man, 100%.
You know, from meeting you as probably a 14-year-old, I'm 14, you're probably 16, 17, to seeing all the ins and outs, to we were at Love Story concert, you're still in prison, and the whole crowd's screaming free young Struggle. Yellow Wolf didn't comment on it, but he put the mic down and just looked around the room to the Opry, which is burned in my memory because I've been in a lot of concerts, a lot of rooms. I've never felt the admiration and proudness like that big brother. You did it. And Troubadour Troubled Souls, me and this guy, also lucky to be here, lucky we're not dead or in prison. And what I don't think you know, but you probably hear a lot, is that we were struggling at the same time, and to see you, you know, lace your boots up and put that work ethic in that you still do today is the reason we're sitting on this couch.
I appreciate that. Yeah, and hearing things like that is what's going to get me through tomorrow. You know what I mean? And that's what it's all about, man. That's why I'm saying, man, anybody out there, relationships mean more than anything else on the face of this planet. Stop to walk by that person that looks pissed off and just give them a smile. You know, tell the people tell your loved ones how you feel. You never know, life's short. And relationships, man. If you got shit out there, you got a bunch of burned bridges, or you got tension between family or other friends, squash that shit, man. It's too short for that. Yeah. Like, you know, accept where you messed up and build from those, you know. And I'm really in a place in my life where I'm so at peace and I feel so good and I'm so happy. And there's a lot of things going on in my life that I shouldn't be. Right. I mean, I went in the other day to get an IV because I get those IVs and I do peptides and testosterone and stuff. Right. I go to a doctor that keeps me feeling 20. at my age. And I went to go get an IV, and she was like, baby, we can't put this IV in your arm today. I was like, why? She was like, your blood pressure's at 168 over 112. She was like, you're going to shoot that needle out the arm. But I had just got off of a stressful phone call. And I was like, it's all right, baby. I'll come back next week. I went upstairs to the gym, and I trained like an animal, sat in the sauna, hit the cold plunge, and went home and went to bed and started a new day. And I haven't had any blood pressure issues since. But, you know, there's still, like, we're all going to deal with stress. We're all going to have moments where we have self-doubt, where we feel like we're not where we're supposed to be.
Yeah.
But we're always where we're supposed to be, man. We're going to get farther. You just got to keep faith and hard work, keep integrity over anything, and just have fun and stay fucking happy.
Yeah. And that's beautiful. Struggle, I appreciate the hell out of the time you spent with us, man.
Yeah, man.
This felt like a bucket list kind of thing. And,
dude,
man,
likewise.
It means so much that you did this.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you said Nashville Fit Magazine, I was like, I almost didn't do it. Because I did that Rock and Jock Celebrity softball, and Nashville Fit had a guy there to interview me.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, okay, hey, Mr. Struggle Jennings.
Oh,
and I was like, and he wrote it, Struggle Jennings, on the thing, and I was just like, you don't even know who I am, man. Damn,
living under a rock.
Damn Nashville.
Come on, Terry, what you doing out here?
Damn Nashville Fit. No, but I see the Nashville Fit. I go to Carbon and train, and they got the Nashville Fit magazine up there, and I love what they're doing, and I'm proud of them. And I'm gonna always give them shit about that. Me being Struggle Jennings. Yeah.
Well, this has been an amazing episode. This is something I've been hoping for. It could go on and on and on.
Well, we got to do a part 2.
We do. We need to do a part 2 because this man's got 86 unreleased songs.
Oh yeah.
And so if you like what you saw here today and you love it as much as I do, hit that like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah,
For the love of Nashville, tune into the next one.